Hi, welcome to Pretty Blunt. I'm your host, Jamie Lipowitz, and I am here with my partner in crime, Sabine Schwartz. Girl, what's going on? What were the buds up to this week?
My quick, fast hot gossip is that if you have a fuzzy window on your transparent packaging, that's kind of dumb. And the budtenders don't like that. And so we've been immediately hearing that fuzzy windows are stupid. So if you have transparent packaging, just have it be transparent.
Is the fuzzy window because of the degradation? Is that the reason why?
No.
Okay. You brought up a really interesting point, though, about the degradation of like, you're not leaving your weed out for the light to get to it. Usually it's just a carrier and you're going to put it in a drawer, like bring it in your house or whatever. So is that a real problem?
I don't think it's going to be a real problem because I think the people that care about their storage already care about their storage and move it into a thing and put a terp boost or whatever in there. The people that don't care about their storage, me, I'm already leaving our bag half open on the table.
It's fair.
So,
Fair. Yeah.
But point being, if you're going to do transparent packaging, get rid of the frosted windows.
Do you think sometimes, though, we make problems that we think the market will have when the market actually doesn't really care about those things?
Yes. And I also am very interested to see in the next year to see if the transparent packaging actually matters. There hasn't been as much adoption as I thought there would be, and there actually hasn't been as much excitement as I thought there would be. Like, people are excited, but it's not changing the world.
No, I mean, I think it's something that is a shift, and we'll start to see if people care or don't care, right? But you have to buy a lot of flour to care about it. You have to be a really constant flour consumer to even notice it, probably.
Well, exactly, to even notice it. We all notice it, and we're like, yay. And like normal people, no concept.
People don't know what they don't know.
And they
So
also
like
don't
if somebody's
want to know.
right. So just because the industry thinks it's this big thing, I often wonder, do actual consumers care about these things? And, I think a lot of it remains to be seen.
Well, to be fair, if the milk labeling regulations updated, I would not know and I would not care.
Fair.
The other piece of hot gossip is there's been a lot of conversations about minor cannabinoids, but last night in the sesh, the budtenders were talking a lot about low THC.
Well, it's such a white space. Grant and Light Label, they're trying to carve out that category. I think it's really such an opportunity because customers, again, it's all high THC products. It's the only product that's available is a super high THC product. And not all customers want that. They just don't. It's such an opportunity to build incremental revenue for dispensaries, different products. But I think the one-to-one products, the minors, sort of slot in there as an alternative to a super high THC product.
Well, talk to me about incremental though. Because what do you mean when you say that it's incremental?
Well, you don't always want to have super high THC weed. It's just something else to sell to a customer. So yes, sure, customers are going to come in and want the high THC weed. And I understand why that's on a menu, but customers don't know what they don't know. And if you don't offer them something else, they might not know that they want it. So there might be an opportunity for a high THC consumer, if positioned correctly, to purchase a lower THC product for an occasion. But also there's a whole subset of humans who don't want high THC products. So why wouldn't we make products for them and offer them a light alternative or a lower THC alternative, But everything in this world feels like so singularly focused, high THC. So everybody makes a high THC product and no one can see all the other opportunities and spaces that they could carve out for themselves. And then retailers are also short-sighted. I think a lot of them, there's certainly many, many, many that are not, and a lot of very good operators, but you have to bring in products for your customers.
That's exactly what the buds were saying, is that they were almost saying that there's two groups. There's people that want high THC and the people that don't. And there's very little options for the people that don't. Then also we've seen the success, going back to your like incremental thing, is like Gabby from Color did a really great job of teaching the budtenders on how to upsell mango haze to just any regular customer. Oh, if your weed's a little bit bland at home, like you can add this in for flavor. And I think that was really interesting also what she did there, because she wasn't even positioning it as, oh, a low THC thing. She was like, add this so that it boosts the flavor of your
Well, it's
your
another
weed.
use case, right, for it. And so that might be a sell for mango haze, but I always love on the lights, like, it's the golf course weed. It's like, you've got 18 rounds and 4 or 5 hours on the golf course. Like you can't get too stoned. You need something, like a little lighter. And so that doesn't mean that the high THC consumer doesn't still want that for their evening. But, if they're on the golf course, like maybe they want something lighter. I think it's relevant to lots of people and lots of demographics, but everyone seems to be swimming in the same part of the ocean, and no one wants to go and find fish elsewhere.
I think you're right. It is about the interest of like what the person actually wants to do. Like there is the high THC consumer who does want something low and slow for their weekend, or maybe they just want to have it taste different.
Also, so many kinds of wine. There's different occasions, right? Sometimes you want a light Pinot Noir, and sometimes you want a full-bodied Cab Franc, or Cabernet Sauvignon. Sometimes you just want different things. But why aren't we making products for all these different occasions and all these different use cases? We're only making products for one kind of customer, one kind of need state, it feels like.
Well, I think that's it. It's like, it's not necessarily one type of customer. It's like there's only products for one kind of experience, and they assume that everybody wants that same experience. And like we heard it also in the sesh about people that can't smoke a whole pre-roll.
I hate relighting a joint, but a 0.35 joint is easily like 3 sessions for me of just hitting it, smoking it a little bit, I'm done, come back to it. I hate relighting a joint. So,
Well, and it's not because you're tired of smoking, it's because you're getting too high. You know what I mean? You would finish the whole joint if it didn't get you super high.
Well, it's the right dose for me.
Yeah.
That size is the right size for me. But there's it's a lot of 1 gram pre-rolls, and I don't want a 1 gram pre-roll. I don't want a half gram pre-roll. So, different occasions, different need states, different types of people.
And so the biggest piece that the buds were talking about, and I think the part that we're going to see is, I think we've been focusing on minor cannabinoids, and we're like, yeah, CBD, like CBN. And like, yes, those are a part of the conversation. But what we've really heard from the buds is that they're not immediately talking about low THC and one-to-one strains as, oh, this is a high CBD strain. Like that's not necessarily how they're positioning it. They're not positioning it as a high CBN, whatever. They're not saying, oh, it's 1-to-1, because the customers aren't asking for a 1-to-1 strain.
What are they asking for?
They're asking for a good high. They're asking for a lower THC.
And so the CBD, they recommend it because it is a better high?
Gives the opportunity for the bud to explain that. And they're like, oh, this is lower THC because it has more of this thing in it. But the customer's not coming in and immediately recognizing that that's their need. They're not immediately recognizing that there's other cannabinoids that might be replacing the THC. Yeah. And so I think that's a part of the conversation is like, it's the budtender's job to build that bridge and listen for when can you suggest an additional item or add it on or have conversation, because they don't know unless they know.
Well, that's it. They don't know how to position it unless you tell them how to position it, right?
Going back though to the same experiences as the other piece of hot gossip from the sesh last night, is the budtenders said that they want no more new blue raspberry.
Well, it's the same thing. Everyone's fishing where the fish are, but how many blue raspberries, vapes or whatever?
Vapes, edibles. It's like how many edibles are realistically on your menu? 20 max? You can't have 5 different blue raspberry flavors.
Right.
You're going to bring in 1 blue raspberry flavor. And so everyone's bringing out the same 3 flavors in vapes, edibles, anything that's like high flavor potency. And it's like, well, you're not going to have multiples of the same thing. Why would I have a bunch of different strawberry?
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone's fishing where the fish are. I said it before. It's the same thing we've been talking about this whole time. We need some real innovation. We need some new ideas and fresh ideas and new categories.
People get really excited about a new innovation, right? But then they don't launch it successfully. And then they get scared. They're like, the market doesn't want it. And I'm like, the market didn't know they wanted it because you did nothing to prep the market for this new innovation. And then everyone just goes and produces the exact same things over and over and over because it does perform. Yes.
So the market's saying it likes blue raspberry. And so that's what the data is obviously saying, which is why many brands are coming out with blue raspberry. But this is part of the challenge, and the issue is that the product exists because the market said it wanted it, but nobody actually thought about innovating on it or who it's for, how to make it different, how to make it better, because they all just go and fish where the fish are. It's not any kind of original thinking around making people want your thing.
Well, it's just like copy paste, oh, there's a 20% profitability here. I'm going to copy that 20% profitability and do no other work.
Well, right, because if you launch, 50 products with the same sort of strategy and just throw a bunch of stuff against the wall, something's going to stick.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Likely, probably something's going to stick, but that doesn't mean that's like one thing.
Well, you can copy the real thing and it'll do well, but it's not the same as I think as actually investing and putting the time behind like, oh, we have an idea and we've thought about who it's for in market and we've actually sold it appropriately to the boards.
I think it's the reason we like Jeter, because like Jeter does one thing in this market very, very, very well. And they have like a very unique and succinct point of view on it. And the packaging's interesting and differentiated. And the product quality is really good. And they do this one thing really, really, really well. And why they exist. And then they can go and venture into new categories as they grow their audience, but they exist for one reason. A lot of these brands want to exist for so many reasons, and they don't do any of them very well.
We go back to the core reasons all the time. Something that I think is related to that is a part of this conversation is the playbook says that samples matter. The more that I do this work and the more that we analyze reports and talk to our clients, I just don't believe that samples do matter.
Okay. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy to say that samples don't matter, but I do hear exactly what you're saying. I think samples at this point are truly table stakes. I think there's something that a brand needs to have a budget for. You need to be giving your products to budtenders, to partners, hopefully one day in the future to consumers. I think that is a tactic that works for many, many reasons in consumer packaged goods. Why are you giving the sample away and what are you hoping to accomplish, I think is the reality. And so they're a tool in the toolbox, but the sample itself is never going to win you the account. It's never going to, I shouldn't say never, but most of the time, never. It's never going to win true mindshare amongst the budtenders. It's all the other things that a brand needs to do to win at the counter. Sampling is 5% of that, 10% of that. It's not the whole strategy. It's not the whole solve.
I was literally just say sampling and people think is the strategy. The strategy is not to sample. It's a tactic in the strategy to support the other bigger goals that you do. And it should be targeted. But one of the reasons why I have been believing less and less that samples have been mattering is one, my own habits. And we see the habits of the budtenders where there is less excitement for large hauls on the platform. There's way less excitement for large hauls on the platform. They're literally not posting their large hauls.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just becomes a trick or treat. It's the same budtenders that show up to all of it. There's certainly a culture around that. But with anything, it gets less exciting over time. I remember when I worked in beauty and we got samples to the office all the time. And the early days, I was so excited about them. I was trying everything. I loved it. And towards the, end of my tenure, I was kind of yeah, it's another lipstick. It's another eyebrow pencil. Okay, cool. I still ended up buying what I wanted to buy at Sephora and ended up throwing out a lot of those samples. Again, I think that sampling is necessary. It's just why are you sampling and what are you hoping to accomplish? And that goes back to, strategy of why you exist. And I don't think a lot of LPs know that yet. I think they're starting to realize it, but yeah.
Well, and I think you and I talk about it endlessly about the concept of if you can't provide the education, the sample doesn't matter. But I was at home and I was in my hometown store and I was talking to the budtender about what they were doing on their long weekend. And the budtender was like, oh, just going to smoke some weed. And I was like, what are you smoking? And he goes, oh, I don't know. I have a bunch of samples. And I was like, oh, what? And I tried to pry a little bit. And he was, I literally don't know. I just have a bunch. And I was like, right. So it's the brands don't do the work to be oh, I'm excited for this person, or I really want to try this, or this is my favorite. And I feel this way about them. But he legitimately was kind of annoyed that he had to try these.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's going to be some brands that are the first grabs, right? You dump out like a Halloween candy haul when we were kids,
the big chocolate bar.
The big chocolate bar is the first thing that you're eating, or I always loved the Reese's. Reese's always went to the top of the pile, I think it's the same thing like that. There's going to be brands that are going to stand out amongst the sea of brands. They're going to be the first grabs. They might be memorable to a sense because I think that speaks to sort of their brand awareness and their brand perception, how the budtenders view them as a whole. That's work they do other places that has nothing to do with the sample. There's going to be brands that are rare that budtenders are going to want access to, and they will sample them first. That's just the reality. But then a lot of it just kind of sits there and you forget about it. And then like maybe you grab it when you're out of weed, like maybe it becomes something that you dig into, but it doesn't, I don't know. It's the afterthought.
No, it is the afterthought.
You want your brand positioned as an afterthought.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? If you're not really up there and really strong, the result is you end up getting forgotten. Like, is that how, like, I think a lot of brands don't think about how they're perceived on the other side.
Well, and so let's take sampling out of the equation. Honestly, what else is there? Like, what else do you do to build brand awareness or to get budtenders to talk about you? Like, because that's always what it is it's for distribution for some reason. People always use samples for distribution, which I don't think is effective. But like, what else is there?
Storytelling.
Like what though?
Well, I think you have to show up like a brand. You have to talk to them about why you exist, what problems you're solving, who you're for. I think you have to give them brand experiences. I think you have to create a world and bring them into that world. And that's what brand building is over time. It's creating something and inviting budtenders, inviting your chosen audience or consumers or whoever to come into that world and experience it. And then the hope is that they like you and they buy you. They remember you. You stick out. You know, the reason we give samples to budtenders, let's be real, is to win at shelf, right? To win at counter, to win the recommendation. So like you need them to remember you. That's the piece. You need them to remember you for the consumer that your product is for. How do you teach them that?
So if the purpose is for them to remember you and have that recall, what are some like things that like people do? Like,
well, why do budtenders exist? Why are you talking to them to begin with? Like really, when it comes down to it, like they're an audience like any other, you know, they're a channel, they're an audience. Why are you talking to them? What is the purpose of it? And then how do you solve for what you're trying to accomplish?
I think on our channel, what I love is the clients who get it when they show up and they understand that the purpose is to make the budtender feel confident in you and your brand. That's the purpose in a lot of ways because yes, it's quick to recommend, but I'm less likely to recommend you if I don't know how to answer a question or I don't know if this product will be good for somebody, right? Like if I don't know how to confidently answer when someone asks, is it organic or not? I'm not going to recommend that product because I want to look like an expert. Me, the budtender, I need to be an expert. And so the brand needs to prep me and how to feel comfortable in every situation to talk about it. And sampling is a part of it, but there's 1,000 other ways to build that rapport and that comfortability.
Yeah, I mean, you have to know who their product is for and be confident in recommending it when that customer walks in. How do you win that? How do you measure that? Oh, it's a willingness to recommend, but really it comes down to awareness, brand awareness at scale, right? People have to know about you and be, you know, you have to be relevant.
People think their sample is the memorable thing. It actually isn't. It isn't the memorable thing because if I'm a purchaser of your brand, I'm purchasing that thing over and over and over and over. I'm hoping to remember your brand. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, it feels short-sighted to think that your sample is the memorable part of your brand. That sample is going to go away at some point. Like the SKU is going to change. It's going to. But you used to talk to a lot of our clients about core and you've just started talking to them about heroes. And they actually are different concepts. And so like in your brain, what is the difference between a core and a hero product?
Well, the hero is the thing you're known for. Right? Like it's the signature. It's the iconic, you know? And then your core, the other things that make up the portfolio. And then you have your new innovations. And some of those new innovations will end up in core. Some might become a hero in and of themselves, like, you know, on their own. But you have your product categories and like you're got to slot them in somehow.
In my past life, we had like 10 campaigns a year, and sometimes they were overlapping, but the ones that got 50% of our time were the hero products of the year, the things that we sold over and over and over again every single year because they are our best sellers and we want more people to be aware of them.
Yeah, they make you the most money. So, we've been doing this a long time and we always are. I think it's changing now. I do think it's changing. But for the last few years, it's been a lot of product launches. We're launching this. We need a platform to launch this. We need to launch this. We need to launch this. And now it's shifting to storytelling about the reasons to believe in the brand and why the brand exists. That is changing. But I think brands are starting to act like brands. And part of that is talking about the things that make you the most money, like campaigns around and investing in the products that make you the most money, because it can't always be about what's new. Like, it just can't be.
No, and things are going to rotate out occasionally. But to be honest, I've been buying the same mascara for 10 years. I do buy new things from that brand all the time, but I buy the same mascara. And there is a symptom of this being a tiny baby industry, air quotes. And so people haven't had the opportunity to even establish those hero SKUs. But there are a few brands that I can immediately think of that do have hero SKUs.
Well, I think that we forget that we're still in startup mode. Yes, this industry is well funded or was, yes, we've now sort of normalized and gotten comfortable, but we are still in our infancy in a lot of ways because it's only been 7 years. That's it. And brands, yes, have existed for a long time, but a longer time than that. But regulated product brands have really only existed for the last 6 or 7 years. And it takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes time to sort of figure it out and understand why you exist and who you exist for. There's nowhere else yes, there are other markets we can look to for trends and patterns, but every market is unique in its own way. And brands had to figure out who they were and who they were for. And now I think we're seeing brands start to act like brands. We're getting more sophisticated briefs. We're getting better strategic thinking. And I hope that continues. I really do. I think it's a sign of progress.
I do. I really do think it's a sign of progress. And my actual hot piece of gossip is over the past couple of certifications, actually through this whole year, we've seen time and time again when we compare educated budtenders to budtenders who were sampled and vice versa, is the educated budtenders are more confident, are more aware, are more highly favorable, are more able to recommend above the sampled budtenders every single time, and often without the sample. They're more confident than the sampled budtenders without trying the product because they've been effectively given the reasons to believe and the confidence. And so we've seen that and time again over this year, is that truly the education has always overcome the power of the sample.
And on that note, I think we should wrap up this pod. Thanks, Sabine.
Slay.
Slay.